is about a theory about how the universe possibly evolves. It all sprung from biology. We evolve, and the idea that the universe is made up of living things, or at least we're part of it. So maybe viewing the universe as a living thing and what are properties of a living thing, well, they evolve. All right. And then this gets us to basically why we're here and the point of everything. And the reason I like it is because to me it seems almost obvious once I hear it. And whenever I've heard something, a theory that I'm like, damn, why didn't I think of that? It's like it seems obvious now that I heard it. But at the time, I never, but prior to hearing it, I didn't think about it. Anyway, let's move on. So the idea is this. Once upon a time, it was thought that biology, there was like a life force. So, basically life is animated by life force. This is like the 20s or 30s. Now today we know that there's DNA. And in fact, scientists, even in humans now, have altered that DNA. So what once was a mysterious force is now actually we know it as a code that we can alter. And so the idea would be that the laws of physics, there's also a code behind those. And if you, get into string theory, there's an idea that maybe there's like one particle, maybe you could think of it like an instrument that can play different notes. And what note it's playing gives it a different property to then be these particles that give rise to, like, I'm no expert in string theory, but just to give you an idea of how this could happen, like that, the idea that there actually is a single particle and that has like some kind of shape, maybe multi-dimensional particle, but nonetheless that could be changed. And if you did change it, it would change how the laws of physics play out. All right, but how does this relate to us as humans being here? And so a couple of things I like to point out is like mostly about how rapidly our technology is progressing currently. First thing I'll put up here, and I'll put a picture of this up, is the human population growth. And so it's like, you can see it's pretty steady for a long time, or it's growing slowly. But then, farming advances in that, and then advances in medical technologies are, really what give a huge boon to our population. And now it's like exponentially growing as opposed to is kind of more gradually growing. I mean, it's just going through the roof. Who was it? Orwell predicted that would be one of the things that could lead to the downfall of humanity. And that is part of this theory as well. So another thing I'll point out is Moore's Law. So if we look at Moore's Law, predicts that computer chips speeds will double like every year. I don't know how quick it is, but it predicts that the speed of those chips will continue to increase at an exponential rate. And that's true. That has been observed. But then we have like quantum computing, and I'll put up a picture of Moore's Law, the rate of computer chips, how fast they've been increasing over time, and it's exponential. But then, we have quantum computers, which are going to like take this graph of like this, these chips are getting faster and faster, and then it's going to like take a huge leap, and who knows what else is even possible beyond that, or, that might just be so darn fast that it's... Anyway, point being, if we look at our population or technology such as computers, another one is DNA synthesis and sequencing technologies, where it costs like several $1 billion to sequence the first human genome. Now you can do that for like $1,000, so and that's over the course of like 10, 15 years. That price has fallen from 10 billion to 1,000, so that's pretty insane. And so it makes you think, well, where is all this going if humans could survive for millions of years until our sun ran out of energy? It seems pretty unlikely right now. But let's say that's the goal. We just want to survive as long as possible. I mean, that seems pretty logical and simple. Where the hell was I going with this? Is that that if these technologies continue to increase, the idea would be that it's moving so fast right now. If you look back 50 years ago, it's like the technology they had then, or 100 years ago or 200 years ago, it's like so rudimentary compared to what we have now. We feel we're so technologically advanced. But I guarantee you 100 years from now, when they look back, if we exist, they'll be like, oh, they were so rudimentary using like a light bulb, or like, I mean, who can even imagine what kind of technologies they'll have? So point being that technology is right now is in an exponential growth phase along with our population. And the idea being that if that can play out for long enough, that eventually we would be able to alter the laws of physics as we do DNA currently in biology. But when and how would that occur? So the idea is, the laws of physics actually do break down as we know them. And like, for instance, a neutron star, when a huge star is dying, everything gets, or like in a black hole, all this matter gets pushed down into like a single like point. And the idea is that the laws of physics break down. So that might be like, for instance, when they could be altered. Also mention, you can make something from nothing. You can make matter from nothing. That sounds crazy, but for instance, at the edge of a black hole, there's Hawking radiation that's given off, where you have a positive or a anti-particle and a regular particle that normally would meet each other and annihilate, but one gets pulled in the black hole and the other one escapes off into space, so they never meet. So right there, you've just created matter from nothing. And I think there's other examples of that in physics. So the idea would be that you've survived long enough, the species, and they've advanced technologically enough where they can alter the laws of physics. Why would we need to advance technologically that much, though? Why can't we just hang out until the sun blows up? And because also with technological advancement comes risk, right? Like, we wouldn't be able, if you look at us as being very effective at progressing, like creating engines and stuff like that, which is, the Industrial Revolution, burning all those fossil fuels, it almost seems inevitable that eventually the species is going to begin to alter the planet. So that would be technological challenge one. So the idea is that any species faces environmental challenges that they either overcome or they go extinct or get decimated or something like that. And so for humans, this could be like, the environment is being changed by us. So that's challenge one. But challenge two is like, if you're planning to live survive as, your species as long as the sun's going to survive, those kind of timescales, well, the odds you get hit by an asteroid, something that like killed the dinosaurs, or you have a super volcano go off, or you have a next ice age, or God knows what, is actually very high, because if the, suns live for very long periods of time, and so the odds of an asteroid hitting the planet over that time scale is actually probable. So if the species is going to try to survive indefinitely on the planet, it must have the technological know-how and organization to be able to defend against asteroids and itself. But that brings us to the next point, gets us to Fermi's paradox, which is, well, why haven't we seen other intelligent life if we are not like so self-focused and, first it started with the Earth as the center of the galaxy. Then our sun is the center of the galaxy. Then we realized that that's total garbage. Now it's like, well, are we the only smart, intelligent life in the universe? And like, to me, that just seems very improbable when you consider how many stars there are out there. But the idea is, but then why aren't we meeting these people, And so the idea with Fermi's paradox being that, well, there's a number of possible explanations, but that this intelligent life destroys itself or, changes its environment and is unable to cope, like we're kind of looking at right now, maybe. Or, we have nuclear weapons that we could blow up the whole damn planet if we wanted. And eventually we'll probably have dark, matter, dark energy, different, more potent energy source than even nukes. And we have biological weapons. So if you look more into this, when people dig into the Fermi's paradox element of why are we not ever encountering other aliens or probes from them or something, then they destroy themselves. Well, how do they destroy themselves? So, I've read up on this a little, just some people, it's kind of metaphysics or something. And one is biotechnology, because if you consider that there are weapons of mass destruction provided to us by nature, like look at what COVID has done. Whether you believe, at least it started in nature somewhere, maybe it got altered in a lab, I have no idea. But, those are weapons that small groups of people or even individuals can take down like the entire planet with. And that technology is progressing extremely rapidly due to cell and gene therapy, which I used to work in for 10 years. And part of the reason I don't like it is because I don't want to be part of something where viruses are like a key element to the technology. And there's, $1 billion being dumped into how do you make viruses cheaper, faster, better? I'm just like, I mean, we switched away from viruses and just use a DNA only system, which is also cheaper, but it kind of creeps me out. And that's, that's the thing you see about technology is it's almost like a test. So that's what this creates. If you want to put this in a religious framework in a way, it's like, if you have Garden of Eden and an apple, the apple is kind of like technology, but that's not a really good analogy because it's like you need the technology to defend against the eventuality of your environment hitting you with an asteroid or a volcano exploding or something. But at the same time, every time you advance with that technology, you gain more and more ability to just blow yourself up or destroy yourself by some other means. And so what it says is that you need to have cultural evolution occurring, can commit at the same time as the technological evolution. If the technological gets too far above this cultural, moral evolution of the society, then the society gets destroyed. But it's kind of a selection mechanism so that the only intelligent life that gets the ability to then alter the laws of physics at the end of the sun, when your sun is isolated, the universe is expanding. At that point, you're so distant from anything else. You kind of think of the initial Big Bang, but not the one that gave rise to us, being like a dandelion with millions upon millions of seeds that shot out, and most of those seeds give rise to nothing, as would occur with a normal dandelion. But in a very rare instance, you get a really cool population that does not blow themselves up, but also embraces technology enough to defend itself and survive that long, which to me is inevitable that it probably would gain the ability to alter the laws of physics. Like, why wouldn't they be alterable? Like the assumption that the laws of physics are not alterable is almost as unproven as the fact that they could be altered. Because what can't be altered? Have we ever found something that ultimately we cannot alter if we understand it well enough? So it's a selection mechanism that only like really cool species that can harness technology and not destroy themselves get to then alter the laws of physics at that point. And, but you might be like, well, one sun can't give rise to a Big Bang, but who knows, I mean, there's examples where you can make something from nothing. Like I mentioned before, on the edge of the black holes with Hawking radiation. I think there might be something like that that's been postulated for even Big Bangs, where you could have like antimatter go in one direction and the other. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not a physicist. Biology is my thing. But anyway, so then you give rise to a new Big Bang. And then, so the idea has been there's been Big Bangs going on forever. But how did it all start? And so the idea would be the laws of physics, kind of like DNA, can randomly mutate, but it would take almost an infinite amount of time for a universe to evolve that gave rise to something smart enough to start taking control of its own evolution. And once that took place, once that did get hold, then it would be able to do it in a targeted fashion to give rise to itself again. So the idea of what's the point of altering laws of physics would be to give rise to us. Most have the greatest odds of that happening, in order to keep just the cycle continuing. And remember, the ones that, can have technology and also get to the end where their sun's dying, I mean, they're probably in kind of a utopia situation because they have like infinite technology almost, or, just amazing, but they haven't blown themselves up. So they're also really cool. Last thing I'll say is, well, how might we achieve this? And so I'd suggest that we need to look at culture as technology. And that actually what is one of the biggest advantages for the United States, which sometimes, gets turned on us as, creates all sorts of, caused all sorts of problems, but is a cultural diversity. It caused all sorts of problems in terms of people just acting like jerks. And in the opposite perspective of all these cultures are bringing cultural knowledge and value. And if we can leverage that, then to me, that seems to be a bit of where the solution lies. And so, yeah, the kind of like old white men running everything forever, I think is problematic, in that and for maybe a number of reasons, but one being that we don't get the value of the knowledge and experience that these other cultures bring. Cause obviously every culture is not identical. There's indigenous cultures, for instance, that, just their knowledge of the environment is just unprecedented compared to your, a lot of other people, so, I mean, versus, different cultures bring different ideas and values. And so one thought is like, I mean, you're either going to embrace all those and bring them together, or you're going to fight each other, to me. And so, like, in the sense, I feel like, the technology is progressing great, right? Like, it's going rapidly right now, I would say. We're doing fine. The problem is we got to figure out how to get us all to get along, and maybe even have the technology relax a little bit until we can culturally catch up. Because, like, yeah, I mean, in many ways, the technology is what's so scary. If we didn't have the capacity to wreck the environment, if we didn't have the capacity to blow ourselves up, I mean, we could still run around with swords and stuff. That's horrible. But I mean, we've had problems for a long time, but we should never lose hope. Obviously, there's a lot of good people, and like people, given the right cultural experience, are often, very peaceful and contribute to society in very positive ways. And that can be anybody, but anybody can be brought down any sort of path. So, and I mean, that's all culture. So I think, the theory actually, it's about technology, but at the end of the day, it points to culture as being the linchpin to determining if humans exist a long time, or if we're gone in 200 years from now when we have, dark matter nuclear bombs. Just kidding. All right. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, have a great day. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts on this. I'm really curious what people think, because I've just been holding it in for a long time. Peace.